Good morning, everyone. There is better news for your checkbook. Inflation appears to be improving. A new report shows hot prices are now cooling down, but many items still remain costly. Nicole D'Antonio is at the White House with a look at the numbers.
Falling gas prices are helping to ease inflation. The Bureau of Labor Statistics says prices fell more than 9% in 1 month. Price hikes at the grocery store are slowing down but remain high, up nearly 12% in the past year. And some staples like eggs are skyrocketing. Their cost has increased almost 60%, and that's hurting the bottom line at bakeries like CC Sweets in McAllen, Texas.
I've kept my prices as low as I have for as long as I can, and if eggs continue to increase in price, we will eventually have to raise the prices to make sure that we can make a living.
But there are signs of improvement. Overall, prices for everything fell 0.1% between November and December. The tiny decrease is a big development for the White House because it's the first such drop since May of 2020.
Today's inflation numbers are good news about our economy. We have more work to do, but we're on the right track.
The latest report is another sign the Federal Reserve strategy of raising interest rates to cool inflation is working, and the central bank plans to keep going.
And that means that all interest rates, whether you're going out and borrowing a loan for a mortgage or a car, or you're financing a credit card balance, those interest rates will remain high.
The Fed is expected to once again increase a benchmark rate during a meeting on February 1st. Nicole D'Antonio, CBS News, the White House.
On an annual basis, inflation rose 6.5% in December, which is an improvement from this summer when inflation hit 9%. So NASA released a new image from the Webb telescope this week. The image, which was released on January the 11th, shows the dwarf galaxy that NASA says is close to our Milky Way. This galaxy contains lower concentrations of elements heavier than hydrogen or helium, which astronomers call metals compared to the Milky Way. Since dust grains in space are composed mostly of metals, scientists expected there would be low amounts of dust and that it would be hard to detect. New data from Webb reveals just the opposite. New cluster NGC 346 appears as a glittery gold and purple splash of color against a black star sprinkle backdrop. That's what you see there, shaped a bit like a dove. The cluster is translucent lavender and lilac with gold and white edges. The James Webb Space Telescope is the world's premier space science observatory. Webb is an international program, of course, led by NASA. So Russia's space agency says it will launch an urgent mission next month to replace a damaged spacecraft docked at the International Space Station. Video shows the capsule is leaking, so officials say 3 crew members, including an American astronaut, need a new ride back to Earth. Mark Strausman has that story.
And liftoff.
When the Russian Soyuz launched last September, it ferried a 3-man crew to the International Space Station for a 6-month stay. But in December, while docked to the station, their ride home suddenly sprung a leak.
Russian flight controllers and the flight controllers here at Mission Control in Houston have been noticing a stream of particles coming out of the Soyuz MS-22 vehicle.
Investigators believe a micrometeoroid, a tiny space rock just 1 millimeter across, but flying 15,000 miles per hour, struck a coolant line that feeds the spacecraft's radiator. And without that coolant, temperatures inside the cabin could climb above 100 degrees during a return flight, potentially overheating flight computers. Russian space officials determined the damaged craft is unsafe to fly, essentially stranding its crew. Cosmonauts Sergei Prokopfiev and Dmitry Pedalin, and NASA astronaut Frank Rubio. To bring the crew home, Russia is fast-tracking a replacement ship to launch in February.
This has certainly never happened before in the history of the space station.
CBS News space analyst Bill Harwood.
They don't have spare Soyuzes just sitting in a hangar ready to go on a moment's notice, so they're taking the one for the next crew. They're going to launch the new Soyuz with no one on board, and then the crew that's currently on board the station, they're now going to have to stay up as if they were another new crew staying up for 6 months, which is going to push their flight out to nearly a year or longer.
A reminder that in space, even the smallest of threats carry big risks. For CBS, I'm Mark Strausman.
The 3 men were originally supposed to return home in March. All right, just ahead, providing comfort and a haircut. That story is next on Mid-Morning. Welcome back. A trip to the salon or barber shop can bring more than a fresh cut. And in Charlottesville, Virginia, one shop is hoping time in the chair will bring some comfort. Garrett Whitten explains.
You know, barbers are like hometown therapists.
Camaraderie and a friendly face.
Appreciate it. Yes, sir.
All right, Brandon.
Something House of Cuts owner Fernando Garay wants to make available at his studio.
And we're just trying to create a safe place for, teens to come and preteens to come, hang out, get a place where they can feel confident about themselves again, and get a place to talk to people for free.
The key word there, safe place. With the spike in violent crimes, Garay's Barber Shop and 100 Black Men of Central Virginia, a mentoring program for young African-American boys, have partnered up to provide comfort to students during scary times.
Recently in the city of Charlottesville, there's been a series of gun violence and other, just violent crimes going around.
All while getting a free haircut and learning the tricks of the trade.
Showing them that there's another way outside just being in the streets and, engaging in, a lot of violence.
For sure.
Just trying to create preventative measures, for our kids in the city.
We're trying to explode the idea of giving kids free haircuts and giving kids the opportunity to get a haircut, as well as learn about barbering, learn about the skill and the trade.
Daniel Fairley, president of 100 Black Men of Central Virginia, says donations received have allowed Charlottesville City Schools and Albemarle County Public Schools to be involved in the effort.
Both in the middle schools as well as the high schools in the area. So that's Buford, Journey, Charlottesville High School, Albemarle High School.
Just to name a few. Garay hopes his haircuts also give students a confidence boost.
And, hopefully just have them, perform better with a good cut, have a better day-to-day life, just by looking at yourself in the mirror and, feeling good. Our goal is to change a life one haircut at a time.
The shop, along with the 100 Black Men of Central Virginia, have linked up in the past. This summer, they held the second annual Back to School Bash, where students got free haircuts and school supplies. To find out how to donate yourself, you can visit our website. Garrett Whitten, CBS 19 News.
Buffalo Bills' Damar Hamlin's terrifying collapse put a renewed spotlight on sports safety, especially when it comes to children. 60 million children in America participate in organized sports, and cardiac arrest is the leading cause of death among young athletes. CBS Evening News anchor Nora O'Donnell went to an ice hockey rink to find out what parents can do to protect their kids.
When Damar Hamlin collapsed, Heather O'Donnell says it confirmed her greatest fear. Heather's 10-year-old son Jack plays hockey in Virginia.
It was like watching my worst nightmare. When you could get hit in the wrong place, something could happen. No sport is 100% safe.
Can something like we saw happen to Damar Hamlin happen to a kid?
Absolutely. It can happen at any time.
Dr. Corinne Hudson is a MedStar health emergency physician and works with teams like the Washington Wizards and Capitals.
How common is cardiac arrest when it comes to youth sports?
Very rare. But we do know it may happen as frequently as once every 5 days.
Once every 5 days, a cardiac arrest.
Yes. Now, there are a lot of athletes in high school and collegiate sports in this country, but once every 5 days is probably more often than we think about.
So how do parents and sports managers and coaches need to be prepared?
The best way we can be prepared for this type of emergency is to have the training and have the equipment necessary to respond.
That equipment includes an AED, an automated external defibrillator, and if used within the first minute, chances of survival are close to 90%.
Okay, this one says to place it up here, right? While you're doing the chest compressions.
Yep.
We learned how easy it is to use.
Deliver shock now.
That button
Press
down there?
The orange button now.
Just say clear and shock.
Okay.
Yep.
Shock delivered.
And then we go back into CPR.
You just keep going?
Yep, just keep going.
Dr. Hudson says parents should know where the closest AED is, always have a way to call 911, ask your coaches if they know CPR, and make sure your school or club has an emergency action plan.
Do you think for most youth sports, coach or some parent knows how to use an AED?
I think that if they don't, they probably should. You can learn how to use an AED in less than 2 minutes. Anybody can do these skills.
Nora O'Donnell, CBS News, Arlington, Virginia.
Now, the combination of winter weather and cold and flu season is wreaking havoc on blood supplies across the United States. Mandy Gaither has more on how you can help stop a potential shortage in honor of National Blood Donor Month.
Every time the temperature dips, so does the number of people who donate blood, but the need remains the same.
We have already experienced widespread cancellations of blood drives because of the recent winter weather.
Dr. Bialaski with the American Red Cross says without those blood drives, they've lost the chance to get more than 10,000 units of blood. Still, 1 out of every 7 hospitalized patients will need a transfusion.
It really crosses the spectrum of every type of patient population who are absolutely dependent on blood and platelet transfusions for survival.
To avoid a blood shortage, the Red Cross is urging those who are eligible to roll up their sleeves.
We are always in need of O negative, which is the universal blood type, and O positive, which is nearly universal. We absolutely will welcome anybody who can come in to donate.
Even if you've recently gotten vaccinated, Lasky says there's no waiting period. You can donate anytime as long as you're healthy and feeling well.
About 40% of the population is eligible to donate, and only 3% do. So we're really asking people to come out, make an appointment to donate so that we can keep the supply strong.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
Now, if you're interested in donating, you can make an appointment online at redcrossblood.org, or you can use the Red Cross app, or you can call 1-800-RED-CROSS to do that. Now, Girl Scout cookie season is here, and this year the National Girl Scouts have a new cookie. Here it is, introducing the highly anticipated Raspberry Rally cookie. But you can only buy this new cookie online. One of the bakers for the Girl Scouts reported a projected inventory shortage for the cookie season, so some Girl Scout troops and their timing of their local cookie sales could be affected. But all Girl Scout cookies will be available for order online beginning February the 27th. But again, this is the new one, the Raspberry Rally. All right, Universal Theme Parks and Resorts is opening a new park in North Texas. It will be a kid theme park with family-friendly experiences and rides involving Universal movies. The park will also include a 300-room family-friendly hotel. Sydney Persing has that story.
Dry grass, cones, litter, and a porta potty. The plot of land off the Dallas North Tollway doesn't look great. But Tuesday, Universal's CEO came to Texas to announce a plan to bring it to life.
A Universal Park unlike any other in the world, and we're wildly excited.
Pending committee and council approval, Universal will build its 6th theme park and resort in Frisco. But if you're hoping for a Dr. Doom's Fearfall kind of ride, don't hold your breath.
Everything in this park is really being designed for children under 10. That's our target, our focus right there.
Paige Thompson is Universal's president of New Ventures. In our one-on-one interview, he told me everyone will be welcome at this park, but it will cater to kids, featuring character meet and greets, shows, kid-sized rides, food and drink venues, and a family-friendly hotel.
We've envisioned this park as a regional park, so we expect visitors will come not only from the state of Texas, from outside Texas as well, from all the neighboring states, and that's why we built this 300-room hotel, so that it can turn into a family vacation.
Music.
Thank you for believing in Frisco.
To Mayor Jeff Cheney's ears. With tons of tourism and job creation on the line.
They asked us how fast Frisco can move, and we told them we're used to moving really fast. And so we expect dirt to start moving here sooner than later.
The company, though, won't reveal its actual timetable, and again, still needs planning and zoning approval.
But certainly we've already kind of given them feedback on what we want to see here, what we don't want to see, and the things that we think will bring community support.
Just ahead on Mid-Morning, combing history. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back, everyone. CBS News anchor Vladimir Duthier is preparing for fatherhood. You may know that. He visits with CBS correspondent Weijia Zhang about raising children to celebrate a diverse heritage and embrace a multicultural background.
Hi! On most days, Weijia Zhang is talking about the White House.
Here in Washington.
But today, we wanted to talk to her about being a mom to infant Jack Lee.
You want to go first?
And 4-year-old Frances May, or Frankie, who she's raising to embrace their cultural heritage by means of language, traditions, and food.
I think that's such a big part of raising biracial children, is making sure that they have an understanding of the food that they eat, of the culture it comes from.
We set out to cook a few recipes passed down to her by her parents, who owned a restaurant while she was growing up.
My mom made me a lunch box when I was a new kid at a new school in 5th grade. So I'm so excited to eat this food. And of course, when you open the lid in the lunchroom, you just hear, ew.
Right.
Some kids don't feel like they belong.
Psychology professor Natalie Brito was born in Okinawa to Japanese and West African parents and was raised there and in the United States. And her husband, whose heritage is Iranian, German, and Italian, grew up in Saratoga Springs, New York. They're raising children together, too.
I remember bringing school lunch boxes or bento boxes and having a lot of kids tease me about that.
I recall sometimes throwing the food out, even before you open it, because you don't want kids to sort of look at you and make you feel other.
So I don't think conversations around culture or racism are that different from our everyday conversations. I think as adults and as parents, we sometimes feel like these are heavier topics and that, we should wait to talk to them about these things.
It may be hard for some to imagine, but as a kid, I was shy and introverted, a child of immigrants, speaking French before I learned English, having a difficult name for some to pronounce, often led to feeling like an outsider.
I wonder if those conversations, parents should have them with children even before they start school.
It might not be sitting down and talking about, anti-Blackness or racism, but it could also be in the form of celebrating your own culture and diversity and embracing your own family heritage.
Back in the kitchen, Ouija did just that. And those dishes that kids once laughed at are the ones that are bringing her the most comfort today, including braised pork and steamed fish.
I'm just going to cut a little bit. We're going to steam it. Bon appetit.
We sat down for our meal joined by Luther, Frankie, and Jack.
What were you thinking about when you were thinking about naming your children?
We actually chose Frankie's middle name first, which means it's May, M-E-I, which means beauty. I remember in grad school, one of my professors said, you're probably going to have to change your name because no anchor is going to be able to toss to you in the field and say, and here's Ouija Jang. And I thought, well, that's their problem.
You did Ouija, you thought that way.
Yeah, so I never considered changing my name.
We're very privileged in the sense that, our children are getting to grow up in such a diverse place like Washington, D.C. You have to prepare your children for the day when there will be some kind of crude remark.
Ouija is speaking to Jack in Mandarin. I love that.
I realized that language is a gift that you can give your children. And so I am making much more of effort to only speak Chinese to Jack.
Professor Brito supports this approach.
It's actually best for language development, it's best for brain development, and kids who are stronger in that heritage language early on actually are better at learning English.
So is this a smart thing to do for parents to think about this?
Really important for us to be having these conversations coming from multicultural backgrounds, but I think it's even more important for families who might not have multicultural backgrounds to have these conversations, right? I think conversations around culture, around racism, around discrimination are conversations that all families should be having, and if all families are having these conversations, it'll make it a lot easier for our kids to kind of navigate those experiences.
It's so easy to get caught up in all the things you think you're doing wrong, but just being there and loving that baby is the only thing they really need.
Vladimir Jutip, CBS News.
When we come back, how one couple opened their home and their hearts. That story is next on Mid Morning. All right, we're back, everyone. There were plenty of victims in the once-in-a-generation blizzard to hit the city of Buffalo in December, but there were also plenty of heroes. CBS's David Begnaud found one with a story that will warm your heart.
Yvonne White came to Shakira Autry's home in Buffalo, New York.
Hi!
To see where her brother was treated like family by a stranger.
You saved another human being's life.
He was at my door banging.
During the Christmas blizzard here, Shakira saw that man falling in the snow.
When I woke up, I heard, help, help.
Her boyfriend carried 64-year-old Joey White inside.
he was so frozen. His clothing was completely froze.
Joey is developmentally disabled, and he got stranded leaving work.
What were his fingers like?
He had literally ice balls around his hand.
She tended to his frostbite, fed him, and even played movies for him.
This young man's fingers is going to fall off.
Shakira called 911 repeatedly, but help was unavailable due to dangerous conditions, so she turned to Facebook Live.
I had to use these to cut the ring off of his finger. Thank these men for helping.
2 Samaritans answered that plea.
We got him to the emergency room.
Joey is still in the ICU.
I just kept thinking about what if it was my family member? I'm right here. And now, for the rest of my life, I will remember him.
And will remember her kindness. David Begnaud, CBS News, Buffalo.
And we'll be right back to wrap things up. Stay with us. All right, be sure you stay connected with us. We're on social media, Twitter, Instagram, not TikTok yet. We'll see you back here next time.